Hey everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Northrop Grumman.
Always a fascinating one.
It is. We're going to be looking at their most recent financial report and trying to figure out, what it all means for their stocks.
Yeah, trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
For those of us who maybe don't want to read through, every single page.
Right, exactly. Just get the key takeaways here.
Exactly.
All right, so Northrop Grumman, for anyone who needs a little bit of background, is a major company in aerospace and defense.
Oh, yeah, a big player.
Huge. They're behind, things like the B-21 stealth bomber, all sorts of advanced radar systems, even those super fast terahertz microchips.
Right. And one of the things that always stands out to me about Northrop Grumman is they have this narrow economic moat reading.
Oh, yeah, I saw
Which
these.
sounds very technical.
It does.
But basically what it means is that they have a really strong competitive position. And that's, partly because of their expertise in certain really specialized areas, but also because a lot of the work that they do is based on these long-term government contracts.
Yeah.
So these aren't projects that change hands easily.
Right.
You think about developing something like a, cutting-edge fighter jet.
Right.
These programs can take decades. So
Yeah.
once you're in, you're in.
So they got their foot in the door.
Exactly.
Now, beyond that solid position in the market, their most recent financial report had some pretty exciting news.
Oh, yeah.
They actually exceeded sales expectations in 2024, hitting a record $41 billion.
Wow.
That
is a big jump.
Oh, it is.
And, looking at the details, it seems like that growth is being driven largely by the demand for their aeronautics systems and mission systems.
Makes sense.
Things like the F-35 fighter jet program and that growing need for those advanced microelectronics that we were talking about earlier are really fueling that growth.
So it's like a need
Yeah.
that they're meeting.
Exactly. And there's a really strong sign that upward trend is going to continue. Their backlog of future projects is now at a record $91.5 billion.
Whoa.
Which is huge.
That's a lot of guaranteed income, baby.
It is. It basically signifies, to investors, stability.
Right.
Growth potential, all very attractive things.
Yeah. And speaking of future prospects, the outlook for 2025 is even more promising.
Really?
The report suggests that sales are going to continue to grow, that they're going to see an expansion of their profit margins, and even a double-digit increase in free cash flow.
Wow. So they're not just growing, they're becoming more profitable.
Exactly.
Which is great news.
Yes, very attractive for investors.
Absolutely. And digging into the why behind those projections, I think there are a couple of key drivers here.
Okay.
First, we've got the highly anticipated B-21 program.
Oh, yes.
Which is that next-generation stealth bomber that's really generating a lot of interest globally.
A lot of buzz.
Yeah. And second, we're seeing a surge in investment in what they're calling strategic deterrence.
Okay.
So basically bolstering defense capabilities to prevent, potential conflict.
So basically invest in a really strong defense so that nobody even thinks about attacking.
That's the idea.
I got it.
Yeah. It's like having a really big dog, in your yard.
Right. Nobody's coming in.
Nobody's going to mess with you.
Right. So Northrop Grumman is really well positioned to kind of take advantage of these global trends, but obviously no business is without its challenges.
Right.
So what did the report have to say about that?
Well, the report did highlight some potential concerns for investors.
Oh, no.
For example, there's the planned wind down of some of their space programs, and then some concerns about potential pressure on profit margins in their aeronautics segment because of the B-21's production ramp up.
So it's like good news, bad news?
It always is, right?
Yeah.
It's always a balancing act. But,
yeah.
It's important to see how the company is addressing these concerns.
Yeah, what are they doing to mitigate those risks?
Well, they're definitely not just sitting back.
Yeah.
They're tackling these challenges, through things like efficiency initiatives, cost reduction strategies, and really just a sharper focus on what they're best at. For example, they recently divested their training services business to kind of hone in on those advanced technologies that really give them a competitive edge.
So they're streamlining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about optimizing those operations for maximum impact.
I like it. So they're streamlining, they're adapting, and they're doubling down on what they do best, which is reassuring to those investors who are looking for a company with a solid plan.
It is.
But now let's get to the fun part.
Okay.
The little details that make a company's story come alive.
Oh, yeah. What caught your eye?
Well, first of all, their microelectronics business had a crazy 20% growth in 2024.
Wow.
Which is huge because it means that they are at the forefront of a field that's just absolutely essential for modern defense,
Right.
right? And then, of course, we've got to mention that terahertz microchip again.
Oh, that little speed demon.
It is. It actually set a Guinness World Record for its speed.
It's unbelievable how fast it is.
But what does that actually mean for the business?
Well, I think it shows that they are really committed to innovation
Yeah.
and, pushing those technological boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
which is super crucial in an industry like this where, staying ahead of the curve is key to maintaining that competitive edge.
Right. And speaking of investments for the future, the report revealed that Northrop Grumman is putting a ton of money into capital expenditures.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a $1.5 billion plan for 2025 alone.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
It is.
Shows they're thinking long term for sure.
Right.
They're not just like maintaining their current capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually expanding capacity, implementing these advanced manufacturing technologies.
So they're setting the stage for like even more growth.
Exactly. And that's what I find so fascinating about this. We're not just looking at a company's performance today, but we're really getting a glimpse into their strategy for the future.
I like it. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what all the Wall Street analysts are saying
Okay.
about all this.
The crystal ball gazers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've seen kind of a mix of reactions.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen upgrades, we've seen price target adjustments. There's a lot of buzz surrounding Northrop Grumman stock right now.
Right.
For instance, Citigroup recently upgraded them to a buy rating,
Oh, wow.
which is a pretty big vote of confidence.
What is?
And that's likely based on a number of factors,
Yeah.
including that, robust financial performance that we talked about, the impressive backlog of projects and those promising growth projections.
Right. Analysts are always looking for companies with a solid track record and a clear path to future success. And it seems like Northrop Grumman is really ticking all the boxes.
But, we've also seen other analysts who have adjusted their price targets based on their own models and assessments.
Right. And that's to be expected.
The world of financial analysis really thrives on these diverse perspectives
Yeah.
and interpretations. It's just important to remember that, these are just opinions.
Right.
And we're here to help you make sense of it all.
Exactly. And understand the bigger picture.
Yes.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, I think there's one more really crucial element to consider, and that's how Northrop Grumman stacks up against its competitors.
Yes. Context is everything.
It is.
So in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be exploring that very question.
Exciting.
We'll look at how Northrop Grumman measures up against other major players in the industry.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
So we've seen that Northrop Grumman's, doing pretty well on its own.
Right?
But to really understand, how good is good, we need to see how they stack up against, some of the other big players in the defense sector.
Yeah, it's all about context.
Right.
Like you can't just look at a basketball player's, points per game.
You have to think about, the league that they're playing in, who their teammates are, who they're up against.
Exactly. So let's bring some of those competitors onto the court.
Okay.
We're talking about companies like Lockheed Martin,
Okay.
Boeing, Raytheon Technologies.
Big names.
Yeah. All vying for those, lucrative government contracts and really pushing the boundaries in aerospace and defense.
So we've got our starting lineup.
Yes.
Where do we start with this comparison?
Well, I think a good place to start is just, looking at their financials.
Okay.
How do their revenues and profit margins and growth projections compare to Northrop Grumman's?
Makes sense.
They investing as heavily in research and development. What about their backlogs?
Oh, yeah, that backlog.
That's a big one because a strong backlog can really be a sign of a company's future prospects and stability.
Right, because it's like you've got that guaranteed income.
Exactly. It's like a nice little cushion, especially in an industry that can be heavily influenced by world events and government spending decisions.
Oh, absolutely. So we're looking at the numbers, but then we also need to consider each company's strengths, right?
Right.
Their areas of focus.
Absolutely. So, for example, you've got Lockheed Martin, who are, famous for their fighter jet programs.
F-35.
Exactly. Boeing has, a strong hold in commercial aviation as well as defense.
Right.
And then Raytheon Technologies is known for, their expertise in missiles and defense systems.
So they've all got kind of their specialty.
They do. They each bring something unique to the table.
So in that case, how does Northrop Grumman set themselves apart?
Yeah. What are their key strengths?
Well, Northrop Grumman has really carved out a niche for themselves in a few key areas.
Okay.
They're a leader in autonomous systems.
Okay.
including things like unmanned aircraft and advanced radar technologies.
Makes sense.
Their space systems division is also a major player.
Working on, satellites, spacecraft. They're even contributing to NASA's Artemis program.
Wow.
And of course, we can't forget about those groundbreaking microelectronics.
Oh, yeah, that little chip.
It's a big deal. It's really giving them a technological edge in what's becoming, an increasingly digital battlefield.
Right. So it seems like they've really strategically positioned themselves in those areas that are expected to, grow a lot in the coming years.
Yeah. It's not just about being big.
Hmm?
It's about being smart and aligning your strengths with those, emerging trends in the industry.
I like that. And speaking of trends, I think another really important factor to consider is the, geopolitical landscape.
Oh, absolutely.
Because global events can have a huge impact on, defense spending and priorities.
Huge. The current global climate with all the, rising tensions in various parts of the world
Right.
is very likely to drive increased demand for those defense capabilities.
So that would be good for a company like Northrop Grumman.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Especially with their expertise in things like, strategic deterrence and advanced weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's always important to look beyond the headlines and really consider, the long-term implications of these trends.
Right. Are these heightened tensions going to stick around?
Exactly.
Or is it a temporary thing?
That's the million-dollar question.
Mm.
And, it's one that investors need to grapple with.
It's like trying to predict the weather.
It is. It is.
There are so many factors.
Too many.
But, in addition to geopolitical factors, we also need to consider the impact of technology.
Yes.
Which is always evolving.
Constantly. I mean, the defense industry is, it's constantly changing with new technologies emerging all the time.
Right.
Things like artificial intelligence, hypersonic technology, cyber warfare.
It's wild.
It really is. These are just a few of the areas that are completely reshaping the battlefield.
It's a whole new world.
It is. And the companies that can adapt, innovate, and, stay ahead of that curve, those are the ones that are going to thrive.
So it sounds like investors really need to do their homework.
Absolutely.
Not just on Northrop Grumman, but on the entire industry.
Yes.
And the forces that are kind of shaping its future.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
It does.
We need to dig deeper, go beyond the surface level analysis and really understand those dynamics. But before we get too deep into those details, I think it's important to kind of revisit Northrop Grumman's commitment to innovation.
Okay.
We touched upon it earlier.
Yeah, with that chip.
But I think it deserves, a more focused look.
Yeah, I agree. Let's dive back into that.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about Northrop Grumman's commitment to innovation.
Yeah.
We talked about that record-breaking terahertz microchip.
Oh, yeah. That thing's a speed demon.
It is. But, what makes this technology so special? Why should investors care?
Well, it's not just about breaking speed records. This chip really represents kind of a fundamental shift in technological capabilities.
Yeah.
It allows for data processing at speeds we've just never seen before.
Wow.
So you think about the implications for things like advanced sensors,
Right.
communication systems,
Uh-huh.
even electronic warfare.
Right.
This kind of speed advantage can be a complete game changer, on a modern battlefield.
So this tiny little chip could really give them an edge
Oh, absolutely.
over the competition.
Yeah.
But innovation isn't just about developing new technology. It's also about investing in the infrastructure and the processes
Right.
to bring those technologies to life.
Exactly. And that's where those big capital expenditures come in.
Right. That $1.5 billion investment plan.
A lot of money.
It is.
A big chunk of that is going towards things like expanding their capacity and implementing these advanced manufacturing technologies.
So they're really building for the future.
They are. They're playing the long game.
So taking all of this into account,
Yeah.
their financial performance,
Yeah.
their position in the market, that commitment to innovation, it seems like Northrop Grumman has a lot going for it.
I'd have to agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
They're financially strong. They have a huge backlog of projects.
Right.
They're investing heavily in future growth. They seem to be really well positioned to benefit from, this increasing global demand
Right.
for those advanced defense capabilities.
Of course, there's always risks
Always.
with
So,
any investment.
what are some of the potential downsides here that investors should be aware of?
Yeah, like what could go wrong?
Well, one thing to consider is that, they are very reliant on government contracts,
Mm-hmm.
which, can be a good thing because it provides stability.
Right.
But it also means that they are exposed to, changes in government spending priorities
Right.
or, political wind shifting.
Absolutely.
Another thing to think about is just the competitive landscape.
Hmm.
The defense industry is constantly changing.
Right.
New players can emerge,
Hmm?
new technologies can pop up.
Yeah.
So Northrop Grumman really needs to stay agile and continue to innovate.
Keep up with the times
Exactly.
to maintain that edge.
So it's not just about where they are today. It's about, you know, can they keep it up?
Exactly.
Can they adapt to those future changes?
That's the key.
So to sum it all up,
Yeah,
Northrop Grumman, it sounds like a really compelling investment opportunity.
it does.
But like with anything else, do your research, weigh those pros and cons.
Absolutely.
Think about your own personal investment goals
Hmm.
and risk tolerance.
It's all about finding the right fit.
Exactly. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from Northrop Grumman's financials and growth prospects to their competitive landscape and all those, trends that are shaping the defense industry.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating deep dive.
It really has. Hopefully this has given you a clear understanding of the company and its potential. Absolutely. And if you're interested in exploring, other companies or maybe diving deeper into, some specific aspects of the defense industry,
Yeah.
be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell.
We'll be back with more in-depth analyses and insights helping you navigate, the complex world of investing.
It's a wild world out there.
It is. Stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.